LeighTDickey.com.
What's going on, everybody? Leigh Dickey here. Welcome to another episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. We're doing something new with the podcast today. I'm actually sitting at a park recording this through my phone and the headset mic that I have with my earphones, or with my headphones rather. So you might hear some background noise. But for today's episode, I just wanted to basically dissect and sort of look at turning 30. I turned 30 earlier this year, and I want to look at basically how not so much things have changed, but sort of how the world, or at least people in the world, in my own personal experience, have treated me since they found out I turned 30 earlier this year. So before we get into that and what it feels like to actually be 30, I want to get some housekeeping out of the way. Just a reminder, you can find the Beats and Speaks podcast on my official website, LeighTDickey.com, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. It's available everywhere, so look for it. You will get stories from my personal life, stories that I find interesting, whether they be in the news, and just random things that I want to talk about that come across my mind here on the Beats and Speaks podcast. And new episodes of the Beats and Speaks podcast go live every Friday at midnight Eastern time. So with that out of the way, let's get into what it's like to actually be 30 and how I feel the world perceives me being 30 and realizing that I am 30. To be honest, I don't feel any different. I feel young still, and I think age is all a mental game, to be honest with you. It's all in how you perceive yourself. If you feel young at 30, then you will be young at 30. You will be young for as long as you feel young. If you tell yourself, oh, I'm getting old, oh, my joints this, and everything just seems to be piling up at once. If you put all that pressure on yourself, you're gonna feel old, and as a consequence, you're gonna look older. To be honest with you, I get asked every day, people will come up to me and ask what my secret is in terms of my fountain of youth or whatever. And to be quite frank, it's my Asian blood. I'm half Filipino, so I understand that I'm going to look the same until I'm 70. And that I guess I've been blessed with good genetics, so I'm gonna basically hold on to them for as long as I can. Plus, it's taking care of yourself physically and mentally when it comes to your age. And I understand that, times might be hard. You might have money issues, whether it's in your personal life, your professional life. You're gonna have days where you're like, I wanna quit. Just don't, okay? So, and when you turn 30, I feel that certain people will tell me, I'm young, I got time, don't worry. But other people will be like, you're old, you're ancient, you're a dinosaur. It's like, where do these two things coincide with each other? I don't feel old, I don't look old. I feel fantastic for a guy my age. And another thing about being 30, I think people assume that there are certain magic numbers when it comes to your age, whether it's 30, whether it's 18, whether it's 19, because you can legally drink in Canada at that age, whether it's 21, because you can legally drink anywhere, or whether it's 25, you can rent a car in the States for some reason. But there are these certain magic numbers I think that people believe in, where things in your life will magically kind of fall into place and the pieces will finally sort of fit together. It doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? You got to keep working at it. You got to keep working hard. And I think people, especially of my age and my generation, we put this enormous amount of pressure on ourselves for some reason, where it's I'm 30 years old, I have to have a six-figure paying job, I have to have a house, I have to have a spouse, I have to have 2.3 kids, I've got to have a white picket fence, I've got to drive a fancy car. You don't need any of those things. You know what I mean? If you're comfortable in your life and you're comfortable the way you are at any point, whether you're 18, whether you're 30, whether you're 85, if you are comfortable with who you are, then that should make you happy. That should be your happy place. That should be your point where you're like, you know what? Don't worry about what other people think of you, because life is a solo trip. And if you find people to add to your roster and to hop into the car and get on the ride with you, good. But don't ever lose sight of the fact that life is a solo thing, and you are one individual living for one person and one purpose, and that is to make you happy, to do things that make you happy, not other people. And it took me many years to realize that. And to be quite honest with you, I wasn't really comfortable in my own skin until a couple years ago when I turned 28, because there were points in my life where I wouldn't wear shorts and a t-shirt and sandals in the summer because I just didn't like, having people look at me. I've mentioned this before. I'm disabled and have cerebral palsy and need to use a walker to get around. So having people look at me is just, part of that's in the job description. It comes with the territory. I understand that, and people have been doing that my whole life. That doesn't mean that it makes me comfortable. It makes me quite uncomfortable. But I got to a point a couple years ago when I was just like, I'm sick of making myself uncomfortable just so people won't stare. They're going to stare regardless, and they're going to say things, they're going to point, they're going to snicker. So yeah, whatever. I'm just going to live my life the way I'm going to live my life, and to hell with what they think. It doesn't matter to me. So I think that everybody, if you take anything from this, it's that you're living for you. You're living to make yourself happy. You're living to make yourself proud. You're living to make your life the way you want it to be. Don't lose sight of the fact that you have a goal, you have a dream, and it takes hard work and perseverance to get there. But if you never lose sight of that, you will be happy forever. Okay? Whether you get married, whether you have kids, whether you have that house with a white picket fence and a six-figure job and a fancy car, that's secondary. But if you're happy, then you got nothing to worry about. And I have come across this in the last couple of years, and even more so in the last few months, where I'm happy for my friends that got married and they have kids, and good for them, right? But some of those people will legitimately compare me to themselves where they are, or we're in different spots. Somehow I'm better than you because I'm married, and you're single, and your work situation is not the best. And it's true. Okay, whatever. I'm not here to compete with anybody that is married, that has kids, that has the 2.3 kids and the white picket fence and the house and the six-figure job. I could care less about what you have materialistically, and basically what you have in your life, whether it's, kids, wife, fancy car, spouse. That's you, right? But don't try to make me feel any worse than don't try to make me feel worse about my life and where I am with my living situation and or my work situation or what have you. With anything that's going on in my life, I'm not going to dump that on you. So don't try to drum that up and try to make yourself feel better. If you want to feel better, and taking shots at me or whoever is the way you do it, then you basically told me who you really are, and I don't need to associate with you. I'm so sick and tired of people needing to constantly have that reassurance, like, oh, well, I'm doing great, my life is good, but you need to get that from other people. No, you need to be comfortable in your own skin. You know what I mean? And to a certain extent, you need to be humble about it, right? So you have a house, you have a wife, or a husband, and you have kids. Good for you, but don't look down on somebody because they don't have that. Okay? You can't necessarily know everything that's going on in a person's life and in a person's mind. And when they constantly keep hearing, well, I got engaged, I got married, we have a kid on the way, or we bought a house, good for you. But I don't can we talk about anything else other than everything that's going on in can we talk about anything else? I've had people come through my life where it's the only thing they want to talk about is their spouse. The only thing they want to talk about is their house. The only thing they want to talk about is their car. It's just, I could say, yeah, well, I went grocery shopping, or we went to the beach today, and yeah, but my wife, yeah, but my wife, yeah, but my, and I don't need to keep hearing that. It drives me nuts. But, you know, and the other thing with turning 30, like I said, like, there are two schools of thought. Like, you're old, you're a dinosaur, or, you know what, you're still young, you have time. Like, I feel young. I feel great physically, mentally. I'm in a good place, right? But when I hear people, like, just rag on me for my situation, or rag on other people because they happen to have all these great things, like a wife, a husband, a fancy car, fancy house, good paying job with benefits or whatever, and, you know, they got nothing to worry about. And I'm sure they do. Mentally, it's in the back of their head where they have things to worry about. But to a certain extent, they're taking that, all their great things that's going on in their life, they're taking it out on somebody that doesn't have that. And, like, what are you doing that for? It doesn't accomplish anything. I'm not here to compete with you. It doesn't matter to me what you have. All that should matter is that you're happy. You know, I don't want to keep hearing about, we just bought a house, or, you know, hypothetically, my parents gave me the money for the house, right? Because it's so hard to afford things nowadays. Like, I don't need to keep hearing that we bought a house, we got engaged, and, like, just tell me the truth, but at the same time, don't, you know, come down on me for my life and for my choices and for the way my life's going, or for the way anybody's life's going. Just be happy with who you are, and you'll have nothing to worry about. I don't understand why certain people feel the need to compete. They have to one-up you at every turn. I'm in a better spot right now because I'm married. I'm in a better spot right now because I have a house. I'm in a better spot right now because I have a car. I'm in a better spot right now because I have a better paying job. Good for you. That doesn't mean I need to keep hearing about it. That doesn't mean I want to keep hearing about it. Like, I had a friend of mine who the only thing he wanted to talk about was the fact that he got married and that he was in a better spot because he had a wife and he got married. And the only thing I kept hearing about was, yeah, but I could say anything else other than, like, yeah, I just went for a walk, or, yeah, you know, just got out of the shower and, you know, getting ready to start my day. And then every single thing was, or, yeah, well, I went to a baseball game or whatever. And just every single time it was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, but my wife. Yeah, but my wife. Yeah, but we were right back to his wife. And it drove me crazy. Drove me nuts. I would sit there on the phone with him and I would eat it, because it just, after a while, it drove me crazy. And not to mention, like, there were some other things that went along with that I won't get into probably ever on this podcast, but there were certain other things with this certain person that just, you know, other than the constantly wanting to talk about the wife and the things that, you know, he was able to afford and what have you. And good for you. Good for you. I don't need to keep hearing it. Can we talk about something else? Can we talk about the weather? Can we talk about, you know, like, where you'd like to go on vacation? Can we talk about anything? Like, what else is going on in your life aside from the wife? And I promise you, like, the only reason people keep talking about these things, the car, the wife, the husband, you know, not so much your kid. I understand you're going to be proud of your child, right? You're going to be happy that you have a child. That in itself doesn't bother me as much. But when you're an adult and the only thing you want to talk about with your friends is how great you are, how great your life is, whether you've got a brand new house, a new spouse, a new car, a high-paying job, and you're making 6 figures a year or whatever, if that's all you are, you know, and you constantly want to come down on somebody for how their life's going, like, nah, nobody needs to associate with that. I don't need to associate with that. And I learned that, you know, you know, good friends are hard to come by earlier this year, really. So that's another thing. The older you get, the harder it is to make friends. Being 30, you're only as old as you feel. And if you feel young, you're going to forever be young. And you really got nothing to worry about. So long as you're happy, then that's all that matters. And to be quite honest with you, to be any other way would be, you basically be selling out who you are and who you really want to become if you were to be any other way than true to yourself and happy with what you have and the way your life is going and where you are, regardless of your living situation, your financial situation, your work, whether you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband or wife, whether you have a fancy house, whether you have a car, whether you're making six figures and have this crazy good job with benefits. I mean, just be a human being and stop trying to make someone who doesn't have all that and is struggling to make it and is trying their best, just stop trying to make them feel worse. It just doesn't make sense, in my opinion. And to be quite honest with you, I don't need to associate with people like that. And you as listeners don't need to associate with people like that. So this has turned into like, what's it like to be 30? To be honest with you, sort of like an advice show on the Beats and Speaks podcast this week. But you just be happy with who you are, where you are, what you have, and who you have in your life. And if you need to make some changes, make some changes. But don't ever lose sight of who you are and who you want to become, right? And if you're happy with who you are and who you have become and want to become, good. But don't ever take if your life is great, great. That's your thing, right? But if we're really friends, right? Just because I'm super analytical, just if you want to analyze things, look at the people within your life. And if all they do is tell you how great they are and rag on your life and rag on you and your life choices, then you don't need them. Get rid of them now. Okay, I will tell you that straight up. Get rid of them now. So, and you're only as old as you feel. You don't have to, you're not ancient at 30. If you're mentally ancient at 30, then you need to pretty much look at your life, and if you feel mentally old at 30, you need to make some changes. Like I said earlier, make some changes. Sorry, that was a bit of there's a lot of crowd ambience. I mean, there's people passing by in this park, and I'm on a main road, so you're going to hear some traffic noises, and you probably have throughout the podcast. But the thing about turning 30 is it's not a big deal. Yes, it's a number. You can feel old if you want to, but I guarantee you, if you feel young and you're happy with who you are, and you're happy with where your life is, and you're happy with where you're going, and depending on whatever your situation is, financial, physically, mentally, if you're happy with all that, then you're okay. But don't ever lose sight of this is a solo trip, and it's up to you to make yourself happy. Like, there is nobody in the world is going to make you happy, right? So that's up to you completely. And that's just my blurb and today's show on what's it like to turn 30. I don't feel old, even though some people look at me as being old. Some people tell me I'm young. To be quite honest with you, I still feel I feel young, right? Like, I look young, I feel young, physically and mentally. I'm good. I'm happy, for what I have and from what I'm setting out to do. So I can't really knock anything. And to those people that constantly want to tell me that they're better than me, and by telling me they're married and, they have a child now, and good for them, You're married, you have a kid. I get that you're proud of the fact that you got married. You're happy that you got married. And lastly, that's one other thing. If they keep telling you how great their life is with the new house, the new spouse, the new kid, the new car, the new, financially happy, $100,000 plus a year job, all I can say is their ego is the size of the Grand Canyon, and they're insecure, because, to be quite honest with you, if you have all that, you don't need to keep broadcasting it. You don't need to keep telling people how great you are. and how great your life is. Just be humble and be like, yeah, well, I'm working for this company. Good for you. And they're paying me this much. If you want to show out, throw out there how much they're paying you, if you want to throw out like, oh, we just got a new car and blah, 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 right? Good. I don't need, nobody needs to keep hearing that. You don't need to repeat yourself over and over again, because life is not a competition. Life is a solo trip. And if you find people along the way to fill out the roster, then you're good. But don't lose sight that this is a solo trip, right? And you got to be happy with what you make of your life. And that's just how it is. So if people come up to you and constantly rag on you for your choices and how great their life is, that pretty much tells you who they are. Because true friends and true family would never look down on you for the way your life is going, and look down on you for constantly talk down to you because they have it better. Don't ever do that. And if that has ever happened to you, I'm sorry, because it happens to me more often than I'd like to admit. Nobody's going to tell me how I'm going to live my life, right? So I'm going to be comfortable with who I am. And this is what it's like to turn 30. Anybody that says you're old at 30, forget them, because you're not old at 30. 30 is still young. I get that some people think, I'm still in high school, and I will take that every day. Thankful for my youthful genetics, but there it is, what it's like to turn 30. You don't need to worry about feeling old because you're not old. If you're mentally old, like I said earlier, you probably need to make some changes. And try not to stress yourself out too much about being 30. It's really not a big deal. Because, so you're 30. So what? You don't need to be anywhere. You just need to be happy with who you are and the way your life is. That's the biggest takeaway I think I can give you from this week's show, this podcast, is that you just need to be happy with who you are and where you are in life. And if you aren't, you got to look at yourself. You got to make some changes. You know what I'm saying? But for now, I'm going to sign off. Thanks again for listening. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe. You can find the Beats and Speaks podcast again on my official website, LeighTDickey.com. Find us on YouTube by searching Leigh Dickey TV. Follow me on social media. Links will be in the description. Find the Beats and Speaks podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your favorite podcast. It's available everywhere on all your favorite apps, so go find it. But until next Friday, at midnight Eastern Time, this is Leigh Dickey for Leigh Dickey TV, LeighTDickey.com, the Beats and Speaks podcast, signing off. Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you all next Friday at midnight Eastern Time with a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. See you later. Talk to you then. Peace. LeighTDickey.com